So, Republic Act number 6710, or an act providing for stronger and deterrence and special protection against child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, and for other purposes. This was authored by Bataan Representative Geraldine Roman and one Pacman Party List Representative Michael Romero. So in the Article 1, it consists of the title, policy, principles, and definition of terms. In Section 1, the title, the Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act, wherein in the Section 2, it also stated that the declaration of state policy and principles of this act, which is hereby declared to provide special protection to children from all forms of abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, discriminations, and other conditions. Producial their development, provide sanctions for their commission, and carry out a program for prevention and deterrence of and crisis intervention in situation of child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination. And it shall be the policy of the state to protect and rehabilitate children gravely threatened or endangered by circumstances which affect or will affect their survival and normal development, and over which they have no control.
The definition of terms. The Republic Act 7610 defines a child or a children as a person that is below 18 years old and are unable to take care of themselves or protect themselves from abuse, neglect, cruelty, and exploitations or discriminations. Next is child abuse. It is the maltreatment to children which includes the following. First, psychological abuse, neglects, cruelty, sexual abuse, and emotional maltreatment. Second, degrading a child's worth and dignity. Third, depriving the child from his basic needs for survival, such as foods and shelter. And lastly, failure to give a child a medical treatment that can affect his growth and development. Third is the circumstances which gravely threaten or endanger the survival and normal development of children, such as being affected by armed conflict activities, working in an unsafe place that can affect their normal development, living in streets without the supervision of their parents to serve them a good quality of life, and being a victim of man made disasters or any circumstances that can affect the safety. Lastly is the comprehensive program against child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination. It is a coordinated program of services and facilities to protect the children against child prostitution and sexual abuse, child trafficking, obscene publication, and indecent shows, other acts of abuse, and circumstances that threatens or endanger the survival and normal development of children.
Article 2, in Article 2, Article 2 talks about the Section 4 or the formulation of the program. It states here that comprehensive programs are to be formulated by the Department of Justice and the Department of Social Welfare and Development in coordination with other government agencies and private sectors that are concerned with this. And the programs are aimed to protect children against child prostitution, child abuse, sexual abuse, child trafficking, obscene publications, and indecent shows and other acts of abuse. And circumstances which endanger child survival and normal development.
Article 3, Section 5 is all about child prostitution and other sexual abuse. States here that a children is considered to exploited in prostitution and other sexual abuse if the children aims for money, profit, or any other consideration or due to the coercion or influence of any adult, syndicate, or group. And physical and sexual abuse of children in Philippines is widespread and of concern. Section 6 is all about attempt to commit child prostitution. There is an attempt to commit child prostitution when a person who are not being a relative and receiving services from a child is first found with the said child inside. There is an attempt to commit child prostitution when a person who are not being a relative and receiving services from a child is first found with the said child inside the room or cubicle of any lodging establishments or any hidden and secluded area.
Section 7, Child Trafficking. Any person who engage in trading and dealing with children, including, but not limited to, the act of buying and selling of a child for money or for any other consideration, or barter, shall suffer the penalty of reclusion temporal to reclusion perpetua. The penalty shall be imposed in its maximum period when the victim is under 12 years of age. The Section 8, Attempt to commit child trafficking. There is an attempt to commit child trafficking under Section 7 of this Act. When a child travels alone to a foreign country without valid reason and without clearance issued by the Department of Social Welfare and Development or written permit or justification from the child's parent or legal guardian. When a person, agency, establishment, or child-caring institution recruits women or couples to bear children for the purposes of child trafficking.
Article Article 5 Article 5 Section 9 Obscene publication and indecent. Dito kapag nag-hire ka ng minor to perform in obscene exhibitions and indecent shows, whether live or in video, or model in obscene publication or pornographic material, or to sell or distribute the said materials shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor in its medium period. Tapos kung ikaw yung magulang or yung guardian ng bata, maaari kang makulong and pwede ka rin matanggalan ng parental authority dun sa minor. Article 6, Section 10, Other Act of Abuse. Any person who shall commit any other act of abuse, child abuse, cruelty, or exploitation, or to be responsible for other condition prejudicial to the child's development. Dito, pwedeng makulong yung mahuling nananakit or kunwari nagbebenta ka ng parang parang ini-exploit mo yung isang minor. Pwede ka mahuli or pwede ka mapagbayad ng 40,000 up to 50,000. And kung kunwari ikaw yung parents or guardian ng victim and alam mo na ganun yung nangyayari dun sa bata, mahuhuli ka rin at mawawalan ka ng parental authority. And for the victim of the acts committed under this section shall be entrusted to the care of Department of Social Welfare and Development. Next po.
So, yung sa Article 7 naman, yung nilalaman ng Article 7, Section 11 ay about sa mga establishments and enterprises na nagpa-promote, nagpa-facilitate, or nagka-conduct ng child abuse. So, if ever na merong establishment or enterprises na lumabag sa batas, automatically, ipapasara yung establishment or enterprise and yung authority or license nila to operate ay immediately maka-cancel agad. Tapos, aside from that, there will be a sign with the words off limits ang ipopost sa labas ng establishments or enterprises by the SWD and tatagal ito ng hindi bababa sa isang taon. And if ever natanggalin nila yung post na may nakalagay na off limits, nang walang pahintulot, paparusahan sila with prison correctional.
Article 8, Working Children. Section 12, Employment of Children. Children below 15 years of age may be employed except when a child works directly under the sole responsibility of his parents or legal guardian and where only members of the employer's family are employed. Section 13, Non-Formal Education for Working Children. The Department of Education, Culture, and Sports shall promulgate a course designed under its non-formal education program aimed and aimed at promoting the intellectual, moral, and prohibition on the employment of children in certain advertisement. No person shall employ child models in all commercial or advertisement promoting alcoholic beverages, intoxicating drinks, tobacco, and its byproduct, and
Article 9, Children of Indigenous Cultural Communities. Section 17. In this section, they are entitled to survival, protection, and development consistent with their customs and practices. While in Section 18, it talks about the system and access to education. An example of this is the DepEd's Indigenous People Education Program, which is the response of DepEd to the right of Indigenous people to a basic education that is responsive to their context. And next is Section 19. It talks about the health and nutrition. They must receive fair treatment of care in hospitals or other health facilities. Then in Section 20, they must not be subjected to any forms of discrimination. If section violated, they shall suffer a penalty of arresto mayor and a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos, not more than 10,000 pesos. Last is Section 21 or the participation. Their appointed representatives shall be involved in any activities related to all programs affecting children of indigenous cultural communities. Next po.
Article 10, Section 22 is all about declaring children as zone of peace. The state and all other sectors concerned will be responsible to resolve armed conflicts. In Section 23, the welfare of the children is a top priority whenever an armed conflict is present. People who are in charge are to ensure the children's safety when danger and harm is imminent. Section 24, Family and Temporary Shelter. This is all about giving families accommodation or temporary shelter whenever there are calamities. Section 25, any child or minor, may he or she be a combatant, courier, and emissary, will be detained due to becoming association to armed conflict. However, he or she is permitted to the following rights: to be separated from detained adults, to be given free legal aid, to notify their parents or guardians about their arrest. In addition, the court, as a replacement for declaring sentence or judgment of belief, must suspend all further proceedings or hearings, and must place the child under the custody of Department of Social Welfare and Development until he has reached legal age, but the court may deem proper depending upon the recommendations of the DSWD. And lastly, the Section 26 is about monitoring and reporting of children in situations of armed conflict. The chairman of the barangay will be in charge of submitting the names of the children to the municipal social welfare and development officer within 24 hours from the occurrence of the armed conflict. Next.
Article 11, Remedial Procedures. So, Section 27, who may file a complaint. So, first is the offended party or inaapi. Second is parents or guardians. Third is ascendant or collateral relative within a third degree consanguinity. So, ayun yung kamag-anak o tito hanggang sa anak ng pinsan nila. Next is the officer, social worker, or representative of licensed child caring institution. So, for example of this is DSWD. So next is the officer or social worker of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. So example of this is Bahay Kalinga or Bahay Ampunan. Then barangay and at least 3 witnesses concerned citizen. Then Section 28, protective custody of the child. The offended party shall be immediately placed under the protective custody of Department of Social Welfare and Development pursuant to Executive Order number 56 series of 1986. So, yung Executive Order number 56 series of 1986 is nakalagay dito is dinadala sa DSWD ang mga bata para maprotektahan at mapangalagaan ng nag-issue nito is the President. Then the DSWD daw is walang pananagutan sa kahit anumang mangyari sa bata, civil man or criminal cases. Then Section 29, confidentiality. So, of confidentiality or pagtatago ng katotohanan. So, at least instance of the offended party has name may be withheld from the public until the court acquires jurisdiction over the case. So anumang information meron sa ballot is dapat itago sa public and bawal din ipakita yung identity ng offended party or ng bata. So last is the Section 30 Special Court Proceeding. So cases involving violation of this act shall be heard in the chamber of the judge of the regional trial duty designed as juvenile and domestic court.
So stated in Article 12, Section 31 are the common penal provisions. Whether the offender is a corporation, partnership, or association, or when the violator is an ascendant, parent, guardian, step-parent, or kahit na sinong may close relation, pwedeng manager or owner ng establishment or public officer, the penalty or pwede ding foreigner. The penalty provided under this act shall be imposed in its maximum period if the offender has been previously convicted under this act. And when the offender is a foreigner, automatically madereport agad siya after ng court sentence and mababan siya from entering the country forever. And aside from that, meron din silang fine na i-determine by court na i-administer as cash fund ng DSWD para sa rehabilitation ng mga victims na bata or any members ng family na sangkot sa offense na nagawa.
So last, Article 13, final provision. So Section 32, Rules and Regulation. Ang Department of Justice and DSWD ay magpapatupad ng batas na naayon para implement ng tama ang batas. Next is the Section 33, Appropriation. So the amount necessary to carry out the provision of this act is hereby authorized to be appropriate in the General Appropriation Act of the year following enacted into law. So ito naman ang halaga ng kailangan sa pagpapatupad ng batas. So sa Section 34, separability clause is if any provision of this act is declared invalid or unconstitutional, the remaining provision not affected thereby shall continue in full force and effect. So, anumang batas o na nagpapatunay na unconstitutional batas ay pwede tanggalin or hindi gamitin, pero ang natitirang provision patupad pa din sa batas. So, sa inaalisin. So last is Section 36. VT clause. This act shall take effect on na napatupad pagkatapos i-print at least 2 national newspapers. Thank you.